This investigation of the president was corrupt. The FBI and the Department of Justice were politicized and weaponized. And in my opinion, there are only two possibilities. That you were deliberately corrupt or woefully incompetent. And I don't believe you were incompetent. This has done severe damage to the professionals and the honorable men and women at the FBI because law enforcement should not be used as a political weapon.
And now the Democrats think that they see law enforcement being used as a political weapon, and boy, are they outraged. They might have to blow something up, burn something down, maybe self-immolate, maybe start writing messages on shell casings. You know how the Democrats are. And a very good and happy Friday to you. Welcome back once more. We continue to maintain our telephone number, 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. It's a toll-free telephone number. It's like beer at Delta House. Don't cost nothing. And boy, what a wacky world it is. Overwhelmingly because of the left. You know, there's radical Islam, but the Democratic Party in the United States is, I'd have to say, worse and more dangerous than radical Islam is today. Speaking of James Comey, we just had a little James Comey and Ted Cruz coming out of the gates there. Because James Comey, the former FBI director, was indicted yesterday. Yay, something finally happened. And the Democrats are very upset. They're like, oh, man, this is the weaponization of government. They whip out the word weaponization every now and then. It's kind of a big word for them, a lot of syllables, and it's complicated. They don't understand a lot of the words that they try to use. But former FBI Director James Comey indicted amid Trump pressure campaign. That's the media take on it. Oh, you mean accountability? You mean what goes around comes around? You mean you hold people responsible for breaking the law from their high and lofty government posts? Isn't that what we were supposed to do? Isn't that what the media should do? But instead, what we have from the news media is they're attacking, they attacked the police and law enforcement. Because they were fine with police and law enforcement when Barack Obama and Joe Biden. But Barack Obama was using the IRS against all of his political enemies, and it cost us, the taxpayers, millions and millions of dollars had to pay to patriot groups and Tea Party groups because any group with the words Tea Party were targeted by Barack Obama's IRS, and any group with the word patriot targeted by Barack Obama's IRS because they were abusing the hell out of, from Barack Obama in the Oval Office on down, abusing the hell out of their political power. And the New York Times and CNN, they were fine with that. They were like, oh, well, of course, I'm not going to vote for him anyway. Definitely target all those people. And they targeted, who did they target? They got, you remember Roger Stone and the pre-dawn raid with the FBI and the guns, and they kill his dog or something, and the CNN camera crew across the street in tow, and they targeted Carter Page. He's the Naval Academy grad, and he had also been working with the CIA as a source, a confidential source for the CIA as a Naval Academy grad, former naval officer. And then James Comey lied to the FISA court and got warrants to spy on everybody around President Trump. 4 times, 4 FISA court lies. James Comey was up to his furry eyeballs in that, and just amazing. So, yeah, and then there was Roger Stone and Carter Page and George Papadopoulos and Peter Navarro. Oh, and did I leave out anybody? Oh, yeah, President Trump, who they charged with crimes again and again and again. And there they said, oh, yeah, he says his estate in Palm Beach is valuable or something. We say it's worth $19 million when I think a parking space at Mar-a-Lago is worth $19 million. But pay no attention to that. The Democrat Party is extremely corrupt, and they're violent, and they shoot people and kill people, and they assassinate people. And then when they do, they continue to slime the very people that have been shot and killed, and they incite more violence, which they do on a regular basis. But in any case, back to James Comey. Indicted yesterday, and he's very, very upset, and he's stupid. He posted a video of himself being all sincere, forgetting the fact that So many of the things that he did are on video. They're on videotape. But we'll get into James Comey. And also James Comey's son-in-law was working in the office, the U.S. Attorney's Office that filed the charges against him. And his son-in-law resigned. James Comey, his prosecutor's son-in-law, resigns hour after indictment announcement. It's not clear whether he's taking up arms yet, but you can't rule it out at this point. Also, this morning on Morning Joke, already taking a look at Morning Joke for you. And Morning Joke himself, they're really upset, and they have no memory for anything. I have to point this out quite frequently because they have no memory for anything that happened a week ago, much less 5 years ago. I don't think they learned it at the time because they weren't following the news at the time, and they're not following the news now. But Joe Scarborough warns GOP. He's warning the GOP, the Republican Party. He used to pretend to be a Republican. Now he pretends that he's something else. Joe Scarborough warns GOP against, quote, cheering, end quote. Trump's crackdown on his, quote, enemies, end quote. What goes around comes around. Now, they use the words and they don't know what they mean. Wait till you hear this stuff from Morning Joke this morning. They use the turn of phrase, what goes around comes around, not realizing that's what we're witnessing right now. But what they're doing is threatening to abuse power in the future. Hey, when we're back in power, we're going to abuse the hell out of it. Well, you did last time and the time before. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone to see that your third world banana republic, Soviet-style, Leventi, Beria, KGB corruptniks, because that's who you've been for a long, long time. But when do you hear that stuff? Because it's pretty wacky. Pretty wacky. Also, libs of TikTok today. They're often a lot of fun. Biden administration repeatedly indicts Trump. Crickets. Trump administration indicts Comey. It's the prosecuting, it's the political, it's the end of democracy. Our republic is coming to a screeching halt because for about 2.5 minutes now, there has been one incident that looks a lot like something that the Democrats have done dozens of times in the last few years, and watch the news media self-immolate in front of the Washington Post building. I hope it's in front of the Washington Post building when they start self-immolating. Anyway, just amazing. Yeah, and great stuff. Fox News, the people that are actually reporting it, CNN, left-wing propaganda outlet, they're having a meltdown. And really, I think it calls for self-immolation. But they were thrilled when the headline at CNN was, Donald Trump indicted on 7 counts in classified documents probe. Remember all the classified documents that we found out about? He had been the president of the United States. And remember when Joe Biden, we found all the classified documents? As vice president, you don't have the authority to declassify classified documents. But Joe Biden had lockers full behind his Corvette in the garage of a house where he doesn't spend any time, and then because he got really rich being a member of the Senate. That's another funny one. You see, the Democrat that's running for governor of New Jersey became filthy rich when she was in the House of Representatives for a minute, and suddenly, wait a minute, $7.5 million flowing into the coffers for the Democrat running for governor of New Jersey, and the news media is good with that, because the news media is the most corrupt institution in America. But back to the hypocrisy. Donald Trump indicted on 7 counts in classified documents probe. And that was, remember, they were rummaging through underwear drawers, Melania's underwear drawers and stuff, like creepy little Jeffrey Epstein sleazeballs that they are apparently. Isn't that amazing? And former President Donald Trump's third indictment, CNN again, annotated. And they wanted to annotate the third indictment. CNN very excited. And then we have what happened yesterday. Former FBI Director James Comey indicted, and they're very upset about it. No, very upset indeed. But they were thrilled when Donald Trump was being indicted. And you remember the state's attorney in state of New York, Letitia James, she ran on the promise of indicting Donald Trump, and then when she secured power because stupid people voted for her, she indicted Trump because that's what she ran on. and it didn't really matter what the charges were. Again, it's back to Lavrentiy Beria, the KGB chief under Joseph Stalin. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. That's the old Soviet approach. Just pick somebody out of a crowd, bring them up, find a crime to tie around their necks. And that's what the left did for years and years. And the news media applauded. And then they went to Starbucks and cheated on their wives and cheated on their, and that's just the women cheating on their wives, and cheated on their taxes and cheated on their expense reports because, they're the left. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, now CNN very upset. Former FBI Director James Comey, CNN writes, has been indicted by a federal grand jury. It's a grand jury. An extraordinary escalation in President Donald Trump's effort to prosecute his political enemies. Sig Heil meine Schatzi at CNN. Really? Is that it? And, maybe it's holding people accountable for abusing power before the statute of limitation expires because of limitations, because it expires on Tuesday. Today is Friday. The statute of limitations expires on Tuesday for Comey's perjury under oath on camera before the Senate. We've been playing the James Clapper audio for you for years now. James Clapper lying under oath before the Senate, and Senator Ron Wyden asking him about when he was Director of National Intelligence, spying on all Americans, and he lied about it. And he should be facing indictment too, but I think the statute of limitations has expired on him. And the Democrats are really outraged that high-ranking government officials would be held accountable for abusing power and breaking the law. Why would anyone be held accountable? And now the media, filthy corruptniks like the dim-witted, corrupt Joe Scarborough, also known as Mo Yarborough. And he's, you're going to pay when we're back in power. Now we're a third world country. That, boom, that's it. Just snap my fingers. That is what happens in third world countries. As they say, when we're going to seize power again so we can get revenge on you, right? Now, President Trump was targeted, and it wasn't even a secret, by the lefties and the federal government and the Justice Department and the FBI, the Obama administration, and then the Biden administration, openly targeting their political enemies and in the Soviet fashion. And now what goes around comes around. President Trump is in charge again, second term, non-consecutive term, only the second time in the history of our country with two non-consecutive terms for a president. And he says, hey, let's have some accountability in Washington, and the Democrats and the news media. But I repeat myself, they say, what? Accountability? No, well, we're going to have power again, and we're going to have revenge. We're going to exact revenge. That's what we're going to do. Isn't it amazing? So the hypocrisy parade is on fire. It's the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey circus of hypocrisy parades. Just extraordinary. Also a story breaking from Just the News and John Solomon. FBI bombshell. 274 FBI agents, 274 agents sent to Capitol for January 6th. Many later complained they were political pawns, just like Mongo. They were just being used like pawns, like Mongo. 274 agents, and some video has emerged. And why is this stuff just emerging now? How many years go by? That's, what are we, like a half a decade? It's getting insane. And 274 agents on James Comey and some of the other stuff. 274 FBI agents were sent to the Capitol for January 6th. And many later complained they were being used as political pawns. Also, just see the video that emerged today of what appears to be the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, and looks like a rioter, like a black bloc leftist with a helmet, with all dressed all in black and gloves. And he comes into the Capitol like he's under arrest. He's got cuffs on. But the moment he comes inside, he bends over, and the police officer takes the handcuffs off him using the handcuff keys. And as the handcuffed guy with the black motorcycle helmet, who looks like he's Antifa, an agitator, he stands up and gives a fist bump, a friendly fist bump, to another guy who looks like he's a protester. And we live in a very corrupt time. Our government is very corrupt. Our city, Washington, D.C., where I live, our nation's capital, is very corrupt. The Democrats party is not liberal. They're the left, and I'd like to think they've never been more corrupt, but I guess they did start the first American Civil War. They were pretty corrupt then. And they elected their Democrat president. That was Jefferson Davis of the Confederate States of America. Then they assassinated the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, because they like slavery so much. Isn't that amazing? Also, did you see Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul yesterday showed up at the Ryder Cup, the big golf tournament, and you'll never believe what happened when they introduced Kathy Hochul. And her name came up again and again, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, and Representative Cheryl, Congresswoman Cheryl, now running for governor in New Jersey, made more than $7 million from stocks. She just made it into Congress. She never made any money. Now she's a member of Congress, and boom, she's a stock trading genius, just like Nancy Pelosi, $7 million in no time. And the New York Times isn't covering that because that wouldn't be good for her aspiration to become the Democrat governor of New Jersey. Very, very corrupt. Hey, fascist, catch. Georgetown University coming up. Lots of stuff. 888-630-9625. All right, a great deal to get to. We've got a lot of madness, thanks to the Democrat Party. And the fencing put up around the White House because of the threat from the Democrat Party to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. The Democrats are a greater threat than ISIS or al-Qaeda to Benjamin Netanyahu, an ally, an important ally of the United States, but not of the Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party is not an ally to our allies. Let's go to the telephones. In the meantime, let's go to Phil, formerly of Arlington, now calling from Kentucky, near Louisville. Phil, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, good morning, and thanks for taking my call. So I've had a top-secret security clearance for many decades, and it looks like Comey gave his best pal, Dr. Richmond, a top-secret security clearance. And then Comey passed classified information to Richmond, who turned around and gave it to the media. How is this not a conspiracy to commit espionage?
Well, that's a very good question. And you're right. Yeah, Comey went up to New York and briefed President-elect Trump and on what was Hillary Clinton's opposition research, right, the Steele dossier, and he lied to the president-elect about what it was, said it was legitimate intelligence. And then you're right, Dr. Richmond, the law professor in New York, he leaked it to him with instructions to leak it to the media, right, Phil?
Exactly, Chris. So I don't see how, he set him up with a clearance for the sole purposes of leaking.
It's very third world stuff, ambushing, setting up, undermining the President of the United States. Remember when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago? You know, President Trump was living there, and it's his home. They said, there might be classified documents in there. So the FBI raided the place, guys with body armor and helmets and rifles. I think there was a helicopter, and they had vehicles all over the peninsula there down in Palm Beach. And they rummaged through Melania's underwear drawers and through the kids' bedrooms. And the news media applauded all of that. And then you may remember that we learned that the FBI was authorized to use lethal force when raiding President Trump's home in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. And the news media thought that was great. And the FBI came out and said, oh, well, sure, yeah, of course. But that's what we always do. That's no problem. Isn't that just great? The FBI raiding the home of the President of the United States. Just extraordinary stuff. And we learned after the fact, and the FBI lied about it, and then they say, oh, no, yeah, of course, lethal force is authorized. It's always authorized, lethal force, and they didn't call President Trump and say, would you show up? Maybe you could meet us at the door. We could do a casual thing, President of the United States and all that. Now James Comey is indicted yesterday. A federal grand jury looked at the evidence and indicted him on 2 counts. And in theory, if things don't go his way at all, he could spend years and years in prison, and I think he might like it there. I'm not sure. But keep this in mind, that they use the FBI to target their political enemies. They authorize lethal force against the President of the United States. This is not liberalism. This is not the FBI as it is supposed to be. This is the left. Isn't that extraordinary? Now, the President Trump pointed out on Truth Social that he said the Biden Justice Department, quote, authorized the FBI to use deadly, lethal force. And the FBI was asked about that eventually by smirking fake reporters who aren't journalists at all. And the FBI put out a statement. They said, the FBI followed standard protocol in this search, as we do for all search warrants. For all search warrants of presidents of the United States, which includes a standard policy statement limiting the use of deadly force. That's what the FBI said. So they admitted it while making it sound like they were denying it because the snakes and weasels that the Democrats put in there in the permanent bureaucracy. The FBI put that statement out, and they said, no one ordered additional steps to be taken, and there was no departure from the norm in this matter. But wait a minute. You sent in armed guys with rifles, not just pistols, but rifles and body armor, because, Trump he's going to turn into James Cagney at the end here, and he's going to be on the rooftop. You'll never take me alive, because the President of the United States allegedly had documents that were classified, which as president he's allowed to have, and he's allowed to declassify. Joe Biden, as the former vice president, not allowed to have classified documents, does not have the authority to declassify documents. And that was all very casual, I'll bring lunch kind of situation. Wasn't that amazing? Wah, wah, wah. Yes, sir. And the Democrats, they're like that. Now, who else do they raid? The problem is the double standard, the two-tiered system of justice. When they raided Roger Stone's home, who had never done anything wrong in his life, again, it's like they're going in after James Cagney, and there's going to be a ball of fire at the end of this, and it was all completely fake. They grabbed Peter Navarro at an airport and put him in leg shackles. A great American and a wonderful guy who I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times, having on my television show. Great guy. And now James Comey is charged, and they say, oh, come on down whenever you feel like it. Come on down. We're not going to come in heavy with rifles and body armor. We're not going to rummage through your wife's underwear drawers. We're not going to threaten anybody in your household. We're not going to bring classified documents, cover sheets, as the FBI did when they raided Mar-a-Lago with rifles, and they laid them out. They stacked up, the FBI agents on the raid, stacked up papers and put them on the floor, and then they brought the classified document cover sheets, and the FBI, laid the classified document cover sheets that have, big red cover sheets that say top secret on them and stuff. And the FBI, laid these classified document cover sheets on the paper that they stacked up on the floor, and they photographed the classified document cover sheets that the FBI brought with them and put on the documents that they stacked up. And then they released the photographs to CNN and the rest of the media because the FBI was ambushing him. They were setting him up. And they said, well, wait a minute. Did President Trump have those classified document cover sheets on the documents that he had in file cabinets in a home protected by the Secret Service? And they said, no, well, eventually, and it was like pulling teeth. Eventually, they had to confess. I think they had to be waterboarded, maybe. They confessed, well, we brought the classified document cover sheets with us, right? But when it comes to Comey, he can surrender like Dorothy in the Land of Oz, and he is just surrendered to authorities when he's good and ready. And there's no raid on his house, no handcuffs on Comey. And where are the mugshots? Are we going to get mugshots of Comey? Because we need the mugshots, just like we got the mugshots of Trump, right? And you got to throw him to the ground, Comey. Grab him, cuff him, trip him up, throw him to the ground, maybe leg shackles like they did with Peter Navarro, and tear apart his home. Got to do that. Also, got to make sure to have that, that shoot to kill, lethal force order in effect when the FBI raids the home of the former FBI director. But they did that with the President of the United States. So where's the standard that the FBI uses? Kind of a curious set of circumstances, I've got to say. Now, let's go with the idiots at MSDNC. Let's go with Morning Joke. Where's the Morning Joke stuff? Because the Morning Joke, Mo Yarborough, and his semi-inflatable flotation device of a third wife, Mika Brzezinski. What happened to that young woman in his office who she fell and hit her head and died? It was very sad. That was just fine. Pay no attention to that. Morning Joke this morning. And listen to the lack of self-awareness that is on display here. Morning Joke with the usual circle fest of idiots. And here's Joe Scarborough threatening Republicans in the future. He used to pretend to be a Republican. He was a member of the House of Representatives. And the House was in decline then, obviously, and in greater decline now. But listen to the BS and see if you can pick out what is ridiculous, absurd, almost laugh out loud satire of journalism and good governance in Western civilization.
Republicans must understand.
They must.
That what goes around comes around. They must understand that if there's a billionaire independent who decides to be president of the United States, gets elected, and then decides to start going after Republicans, Republican senators, Republican House members, Republican judges, Republican political operatives.
Listen to this.
All that independent will have to do is just pick up the phone, call his or her attorney general, and say, arrest Republican Senator A, arrest Republican political opponent B, go after conservative think tank C. I mean, it's, again, extraordinarily dangerous.
Now, they use the words, but they don't know what they mean. This is what goes around comes around. Comey being charged yesterday by a grand jury, after a grand jury found him guilty and it should go forward. A federal grand jury found this. It wasn't the Trump Justice Department that just charged him out of the blue. There was a grand jury impaneled, and interestingly, in the Eastern District of Virginia, where Comey's son-in-law, where Comey's son's husband, just kidding, it's his daughter's husband, is a prosecutor in the office where the indictment was handed up yesterday after the grand jury saw the evidence. And this is our system of government. And again, when Donald Trump was charged in New York, and then Donald Trump was charged in Washington, D.C., and then Donald Trump was charged in Atlanta, there was no outrage. There was no, oh, yeah, what goes around comes around, Then, one day the Republicans will be back in power, and then they'll charge you with abusing your power and targeting the political enemies. This is what goes around comes around. Now, if you're a third world, Middle Eastern, tree-dwelling, AK-47 toting moron, then you say what Joe Scarborough said this morning, and that is, oh, yeah, next time we're in power. And I love his fictional, his imaginary world. An independent billionaire president, right? A billionaire who's an independent becomes president. And then he, presumably he or maybe transgender, starts targeting Republicans. And he says what goes around comes around. Now, and there's nobody there, of course, to say, well, wait a minute, Joe. This is the what goes around comes around moment. You see, there are a great many millions of Americans who are aware of the fact that James Comey abused the FBI's powers and authorities, and that James Comey flew up to, you remember we made fun of it with a song from The Best of Bread, I Found Your Diary Underneath the Tree, because, but I guess we got to finish Morning Joke, but remember that he said, James Comey went up to New York. He lied to the president-elect, Donald Trump, at his Trump Tower in New York and said, oh, we've got this intelligence about you and Russian collusion. And it was what he was presenting to the the president-elect, rather, was actually Hillary Clinton's opposition research. by this Christopher Steele guy, which they dressed up as a dossier, which is like putting French undies on a street tramp. But yeah, it's a dossier. It's a dossier. And then he leaked it to his law professor friend, Dr. Richardson, in New York, with instructions to leak it to CNN and other media. I think it was the Daily Beast, right? And just amazing stuff. And then he said, well, I guess we've got it right here. Now I'm talking about it. That James Comey did an interview much, much later and said, oh, yeah. And then he pretended, he flew from Washington to New York on the FBI jet, the little tiny private government jet, public government jet. And then he took an armored FBI limousine motorcade like out of a Tom Clancy movie into Manhattan to brief the president-elect. And he deceived the president-elect. He tricked the president. He lied to the president-elect. He misrepresented the dossier to President Trump. And it wouldn't be the first time that he the last time that he misrepresented Hillary Clinton's opposition research, because he used the same dressed-up tramp with the FISA court so he could spy on everybody around President Trump. And then he lied about it and said, oh, well, there was, and then and he got back in the armored limousine, instructed his law professor friend to leak to the press the stuff that would be damaging to President-elect Trump. And then he wrote up notes about it, which he said were his diary. Now, he took the FBI jet to the FBI armored motorcade, writing on the FBI laptop in the back of the armored FBI limousine, probably a war wagon, a Chevy Suburban or something, or a Cadillac. He's the director after all. And then he arranged this leak to undermine the president-elect, to sabotage the president-elect. Then he drove back to the FBI jet to come back to Washington, and he claimed, oh, no, it's just these things were just and I just wrote about them in my diary. Really? You're in your diary? How ridiculous. But let's go back to Morning Joke this morning, because Willie Geist was on there. And Morning Joke, an independent, what goes around comes around. Now, what went around has come around, I think, might be the updated version for Joe Scarborough, not a very bright guy. They continued.
For all the talk over the last several years of alleged weaponization of government, here it is right in front of us, the weaponization of government. Also have to note the timing. The statute of limitations, 5 years on the alleged crime here, was up on Tuesday. So time was of the essence for President Trump and his new U.S. attorney in Virginia.
The weaponization. Now, again, the Obama administration found guilty of abusing the IRS, which they accused Richard Nixon of talking about once, and they still yap about that in newsrooms and in classrooms. And Barack Obama did it, use the IRS to target groups with the words Tea Party or the word Patriot in their organizations, and the IRS was used to target the political enemies of Barack Obama and the Democrats. They used the FBI and the Department of Justice to target Peter Navarro and George Papadopoulos and Carter Page and Roger Stone. Oh, and by the way, Donald Trump, again and again and again. And these corrupt, statewide law enforcement people, Tish James in New York, running on getting Trump, then winning the election, then indicting Trump, just like, they do in Ouagadougou, because that's your Democrat Party today. Aren't they amazing? Also, Jasmine Crockett, the hero of the Democrat Party, she's their next presidential candidate. Speaking of third world, she is third world up the yin-yang. And she said some crazy yesterday. Got that coming up. We're at 888-630-9625. All right. A great many important items to get to on James Comey. His charges, what we should expect, will he be found guilty? The grand jury, the abuses of power in the news media, the abuses of power in government in Washington. Right now, let's go to the telephones. Michael, let's go to Rachel, calling from Clark County, Virginia. Rachel, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hello, Chris. Again, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. talking about this violence, it's, to me, we see it all throughout the colleges. All these years, these kids have been indoctrinated. And for what purpose? And I think we're watching that manifest itself now as their army are being called, literally being called to arms. And it's widespread. And even here in my little town in Berryville, all I did was say something on Facebook about a memorial, and I got so much hate, and I got a really nasty message wishing something very awful on me. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it myself anyway. So Sunday, I decided I'm going to do a vigil in Berryville, and we got protesters in this little town who tried to stop us from being able to use our First Amendment right, and now they want to protest us in Berryville. It's everywhere, and these people are crazy, and they're why I have a concealed carry, and that's why we need to bring insane asylums back.
We do need to bring insane asylums back. There's no doubt about it. I'm glad you have your concealed carry. I think all women should have their concealed carry, and a lot of men, unless you're a Democrat, of course. I think registered Democrats should be prohibited from owning firearms at this point.
Especially since they think they're above the law.
And if
no one's above the law unless you're a Democrat.
And if they do own firearms, we should go check and see if they're inscribing messages on the bullets.
And check their hard drives while we're at it.
Which has become a real trend. You know, Luigi Mangione gunned down the healthcare CEO in New York. He had messages written on his bullets. The assassin of Charlie Kirk had messages written on his bullets. The attacking the ICE facility in Dallas, Texas, day before yesterday, he had messages written on his bullets, and they're all Democrat Party messages. And I got to tell you, Rachel, that's an amazing story in Berryville, Virginia. The left is, it's like the political version of monkeypox. They've spread it everywhere, I think, by the usual method. What they're doing to our children, who they're also sexualizing in the first grade and kindergarten, but only into LGBTQ, as they indoctrinate them into that. But you're right, they are raising and indoctrinating generations of violent, bloodthirsty ghouls who are political fanatics, and it's tragic already, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. Rachel, thank you very much for the call, and be sure to go to the range. It's important to be, capable and competent, because we're living in crazy, crazy times.